and Sarah, and we wanted to do something so we could keep interacting with y'all on the alternate Tuesdays that we don't have an Agronomy Club meeting. And we thought of Tuesday Talks with Bob. So each week that we don't have an Agronomy Club meeting, hopefully we'll post a video interviewing Dr. Patterson with a couple of questions, and we hope you enjoy.
So, during our little episodes, we're going to be talking about things anywhere from the history of the Agronomy Club to when you should plant your corn. And we know how much y'all love Bob. We love Bob just as much. And he has lots of things that he can tell us some good advice. So, we hope you enjoy our little series. We're your hosts, Emily
And Sarah.
And we look forward to interacting with y'all during our little series.
And as always, our guest of honor will be Dr. Patterson. He's not here right now, though, because it's an introduction. So, see y'all in the next clip.
All right. So, on today's episode of Tuesday Talks, we're here with Bob Patterson, and we're going to go ahead and get started with some of our questions that we have for him.
So, Dr. Patterson, can you tell us a little bit of the history behind the Agronomy Club?
I would love to.
Good.
But first, I want to express most sincere thanks to all of you for providing me an opportunity to go back in time and think about the Agronomy Club in the past, the present, and the future. We're going to talk about all of that. But looking at the history part, there were two departments when I came down here from my hometown in just outside of Hickory, North Carolina. There were two departments, field crops and soils. The word science was not there, field crops and soils, but they were together. We were in this building together. And I cannot say strongly enough how wonderful all of us in the Agronomy Club felt about having the opportunity to have our meetings, not here, this building, this part did not exist. We met together, we did everything together. We were as though we were one department. We were two departments, but we were one club. And it was about equivalent numbers of students, guys, and I'll get to that in a moment, and field crops and soils. The programs that we initiated in the Agronomy Club were they were educational, they were informative, and they were also recreational. We tried to balance it. We wanted to learn, grow academically, but wanted to have fun. We had wonderful guest speakers. We chose guest speakers of the same type that you are choosing today. Wonderful guest speakers. And then after the meetings, there was always a social time when we got together. And I'll come back to that a little later. Now, you're not going to believe this, but the dues were 75 cents per member for the whole semester.
I would like that rate
Yeah.
right now.
Well, but 75 cents was a lot different than 75 cents
That's true.
today. Now, what I really believe that any former agronomy club student would say, if given the opportunity, what you are so kindly providing me to do tonight, is to say that when we get together later on in life, as we sometimes do, and I did this past Saturday evening at a function out at the, I still say faculty club, the the university club. The first thing we talk about is the time we were in the agronomy club, what we did, where we went, how we interacted, and how important it was to be able to come together the way we did and have conversations, interactions of the sort that I will talk about a little later. We know in our heart of hearts that the number one opportunity that we had coming here from all the places we came, most of us were from North Carolina. There weren't very many people from out of state then. Coming here to this club meeting that we counted on having was the greatest opportunity we had outside the classroom to grow both academically and professionally and personally for later in life. There's no question about that. So the history of the club is very interesting to me. And I want to talk about some of the things that we did together, historically speaking, that have made a difference in my life. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and say what I believe, and I'll elaborate on this in a moment. But if it weren't for the Agronomy Club, there is a good chance that I would not be able to be here tonight to talk with y'all because the relationships that I built with my colleagues and with classmates and with faculty, and I'll talk about that, prepared me in the right way for the rest of my journey academically and then later. I'm quite certain that my being here tonight is a result of the Agronomy Club. I mean that sincerely.
That's really sweet.
That is
It's
sweet.
That means a lot.
I'm telling the truth. And you folks are going to say the same thing someday when you look back and say, "Gosh, that was fun. I enjoyed that."
I agree.
Yes.
It's when you're struggling with an exam coming up, an assignment that's due, and you say, "Wow, I get to take a break from this and go to the agronomy club meeting." That is just a blessing. And I want to say out something else right now. Our club has always had good leadership. We could not have better leadership than we have right now, and I mean that
Oh,
sincerely.
Emily,
I mean,
our
Thank you.
president, if you did not know.
Thank you.
I'm talking about all of you.
But yes, we do have a good group of leaders this year.
I agree.
What you've got, you have classmates, you've got leaders who are thinking and doing in healthy ways. It's a matter of deciding now on those Tuesday nights when we come together, how can we use our time in a healthy way so that the students can say, gosh, tonight was time well invested, and
Mm-hmm.
we want that to be the case. And it's going to continue to be the case because of the decisions that y'all have made. You're thinking and you're doing. You're respecting the mantra of this university, think and do, and
Mm-hmm.
y'all are doing it so well. I'm just so proud of y'all.
Cute.
Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk about the history.
Anytime.
We enjoy it.
So do I.
So on to our next question. This sort of also reflects back into the history. So what is your favorite agronomy club memory?
This was so hard for me to separate the memories. There's so many, and I've got several. And I know that you're not going to let me. I'm on a timer. I
You're
understand
welcome.
that. Uh, we have now the Bill Fike Crop Science Teaching Garden honoring this person who was my mentor. Dr. Fike was incredible. He helped me in ways that I could not begin to describe adequately. He cared so much for the club that every semester, all of us went to his home for a meal. We didn't go across the street. He wasn't here. We went to Bill Fike's home, and his family helped us with a wonderful meal. Bill was from Pennsylvania. He went out to Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul to complete his formal education. That's where he got his doctorate. And he made some good friends there. And when he came here and began teaching, advising, and mentoring and doing research, he became involved in the agronomy. That was before I arrived as a freshman. What I was told was that he cared so much about the agronomy club that he wanted to help your predecessors with fundraising. So he brought seed and other agricultural materials, not just from Minnesota, but from other places, brought them here. And every Saturday morning, back it's over here, the loading dock, and yeah, what we say, Old Williams. Every Saturday morning, there was a sale. Bill brought the materials here, and some club members arrived and sold whatever was available to the public. We made it very apparent that there were items here for sale. People came to get them from the community because they wanted the items, and they also wanted to support the agronomy club. So that was one of Bill's many ways of connecting the public, the community, the West Raleigh community with the agronomy club. And there were signs out there. This is something that the agronomy club wants you to have, and we appreciate your helping us. And there were people that would, when they would leave, they would say, "I can't wait until next Saturday morning because I want to come back." And they were just as interested in interacting with their agronomy club members as they were making the purchase that they did. The thing I want to say about Bill Fike before I leave him is that after he finally retired, he was we say new crop specialist now. We said back then new crop specialist. We now say alternative crop specialist. That was his responsibility, and he did a lot of research to try to identify crops that could have a marketing possibility if circumstances permitted. He did retire. He then went to work part time at a garden center in the Raleigh area, and half of the money he earned went to his family. The other half went to the Agronomy Club. Yes, that's who Bill Fike was. We had weekend trips. We did a lot of weekend activities that were very important. Someone would say, "Y'all, you guys from the mountain, not gals, you guys from the mountain need to come down and see what it's like down in the Tidewater area." So we would go down there one weekend, and we did soil judging. And his and when I learned that Sarah Bailey won the Southeast Regional contest, I that brought back so many wonderful memories of times that we got together in various ways. And as I look at this book, I'm reminded of all that. We had a speech contest, as we still do, and I thoroughly enjoyed. That was I was scared to death when I started, but after a couple of years of being a part of the speech contest, I felt more comfortable without speaking. It got a lot better.
Do you remember what you talked on?
Several things. Usually, it had to do with the dairy farm, and I remember one time I said to the students, um, please don't put too much chicken manure on your tomatoes, or if you do, you'll burn them up and it'll cause your mother to cry. And my mother cried,
I could imagine.
and, and then we had so much wild onions and garlic in our pasture, and mother made butter, and I would take it to the store with mother to sell it. Mr. Hogan opened a pound of butter one time, and he smelled it. He said, "June, I'm sorry, I can't take this butter. It's got an odor. It had onions and garlic in the spring." So I told my friends in high school and said, "Bob, if you go down there, maybe they can help you figure out how to control the onions and garlic." So that's what we did. We had so many wonderful experiences. The national meetings, I'll never forget the time the meetings were down in Texas, and we one day we went with the students from the club in Texas A&M into a field that I thought it was snowing, but no, it was not snowing. It was now what kind of plant could look in a dry weather could be looking very healthy, and you rub your hand over it and it gets sticky, and you wonder what in the world are they growing that plant for? Well, they were growing that plant to feed cattle in weather that was too dry for corn. So I'll let y'all think about which plant it is. It looked like it was looked white. It looked like it was snowing, but it was a different plant. I'll let y'all think about what plant might it be in West Texas. They didn't have a very high stocking rate in West Texas. Now there was a there was a ladies' night. We had an evening one evening a semester where we honored the wives and the girlfriends of our students. That was a very favorite evening for sure. There is no question about that. Someone who was so influential that set me on my path. That's what I'm supposed to talk about next, isn't it? I'm sorry.
You're doing a great job.
I mean, is it okay? I've got a comment I cannot resist making right now. And as I looked through this book that you let me look at, I was reminded of Dr. Ralph McCracken, who was in soils on the third floor, and that's who I worked with for a couple of years before I moved over into the pasture forage area. Dr. McCracken was a very, very special person. He was willing to give any agronomy club student who wanted an opportunity to work in his lab. And I will say that the lab next to his was a lab that Dr. McCracken said, Bob, you don't you dare go in that lab. It was the one right next to it. I'm going to mention Adolf Malik, Malik 1, Malik 2, and Malik 3, phosphorus Malik. Adolf Malik's lab was up here before it moved out to the soil testing lab on Blue Ridge Road, and then Dr. Malik died, and they relocated the lab. But that was an opportunity for me to think about soil science in a very special way. So, can I talk about more than someone? Can I say someone? So, Dr. McCracken said, Bob, it's time for you to go to graduate school. Uh, and if you want to stay here, I'll be glad to include you in my lab work. I could use a good student. Well, um, I'd had another course with a person by the name of Gene Yantz. I'm sorry, who wrote this book, very special book. We are what we were. And I had worked a little bit with Dr. Yantz, and Dr. Yantz said, Bob, I'm going to start a project. He had before Dr. Yantz got his undergraduate degree here. He went up to Cornell and finished his formal education, and he was a very special um, researcher in potassium, and he co-authored this book, The Role of Potassium in Agriculture. Kilmer, Yantz, and Niall Brady, who was the head of soil science up at Cornell then. I learned from Dr. Yantz that he would give me an opportunity to do my master's work in farmers' fields. I knew that I wanted to work on farmers' fields rather than going to an experiment station. I'd made a decision. So Dr. Yantz gave me an opportunity to get a master's degree. It was a copper lime study on 2 farms in Hyde County near Swanquarter. Grat Spencer and Carl Cahoon's grandfather. And Carl Cahoon is, you know who Carl, now he's one of our faculty. And I will never forget Dr. Yantz telling me when we were driving down there one morning, we are going to be so happy to do this research on a farmer's field because this gives us an opportunity to find out how the farmers are thinking. And that leads to a comment I'll make in a few minutes. The next thing was I was finishing my master's. I had not decided to go on to school, continue my education. But Dr. Yantz said, Bob, you're not ready for the real world yet. Okay, Dr. Yantz, what do I do? He said, you got to apply to graduate school. I applied, and I was on the 3rd floor running samples on that copper lime study when the phone rang, and I was asked if I was willing to accept an assistantship offer at a school in the southeast. And I said, well, I haven't heard from the school. My major advisor said I needed to find out about before I made a decision. And he said, well, I'm going to give you 3 days, and then after that, I'll have to offer it to someone else if you don't want it. So I ran down. I said, okay. I ran downstairs. Dr. Yantz, I've got an offer, but you told me not to make a decision until I heard from Cornell. And he said, that's right. Have you heard from him? No. He picks up the phone. I didn't know at that time what the other person said, but Dr. Yantz said, I think he's worth taking a chance on. Later, a long time later, I said, Dr. Yantz, what did the head of the graduate program up at Cornell ask you that caused you to answer that? He wanted to know if I thought you were any good, worth taking a chance on. So then when I finished up there, my wife and I wanted to come back to North Carolina. And there were no opportunities. And so I was trying to decide what to do. And so I had I accepted an oral offer. I hadn't signed anything at Virginia Tech. There were two opportunities, one in research and one in teaching. And I was trying to decide what to do. I knew that I wanted to do some teaching. I was leaning that way. And the phone rang at the house the day after Christmas, and it was Dr. Paul Harvey, the head of the field crops department, who said, "Bob, I, I know that you were interested in coming here. We talked at the agronomy meetings in Washington D.C. and we didn't have anything then, but things have changed, and we would like to have you interview if you want to." I called the department head up at Virginia Tech, VPI, and I explained the situation. He said, "Bob, as much as we would like to have you, what we really want is for you to be where you think you should be." So I came down here, I interviewed, and I got real lucky. And it's only because of this person, Dr. Yance, that I'm we're together tonight. There's no question at all. Now, maybe I'm crossing a line. Before I cross the line, I've got to say one thing. No, two things. One is in this book that you let me look at. Um, we always the agronomy club always put seven booths to state fair, and I'll never forget the night I wasn't I was teaching at night, and I needed to get out there before they close at 9:30, and I was on my way out there. I was going on Sullivan Drive. Policeman stopped me to I need to see your license. I gave him all that, and he said, why are you driving? Well, I promised the Agronomy Club I would um, be there before they close the booths because I need to bring some stuff back to bring some students back, and I'm running close. I'm actually late, so I was speeding, and I apologize. And he said, "Bob, you've got a good reason." So he did not give me a ticket. So I went out there, and one of the booths. This reminds me. Um, I did the forage crops booth one time, and here you probably can't see this. You can't read this. I know you can't. It has to do with in alfalfa production, weevil control is a must. Now is the time to use heptachlor. Next week is too late. Students, please never spray heptachlor on alfalfa. It's not a good thing to do. Being able when the agronomy club was given all that space at the state fair to communicate what we wanted to share with the public. The agronomy club took all of that very seriously. There's one other thing that we took seriously. Back to the after each meeting, the club members and guests gather for refreshments and a social period. Now you're sure it's okay for me to say
Yes.
Positive.
this was a long time ago, students. The refreshments usually consist of soft drinks, cookies, and potato chips. The social period may include discussions on any topic of current interest, such as girls, quizzes, girls, world news, girls, and so forth. Okay. I want to I want to conclude my time with you with a comment that I feel very strongly about. Those of you who've made the decision to invest some of your time in the Agronomy Club have made one of the most important decisions that you will make. There is no question about it. Someday you're going to look back and say, I am so glad that I invested some of my time in that way because you've had an opportunity while you were part of the Agronomy Club to have conversations with classmates and with others, with the guest speakers and with others. And you may have an aha moment. Someone might say something that you hadn't thought of, and you say, "Gosh, that could be interesting. I might want to get an internship doing that." And that's one reason why we invite some of our faculty in who normally don't lecture to let you know what they're doing, because it just might lead to an opportunity that you hadn't even realized that you have. Now, here is the advice I want to give you tonight, and then I'll get out of your way. When you are interacting with someone, a classmate, a farmer, a family member, anyone with whom you are talking, after you ask them what they're doing, what they're thinking, ask them why they are doing what they're doing, and why they are thinking the way they're thinking. The why is so important. Yes, the what is important, but the why is much more important. And when you ask them, well, why are you gonna do that this next growing season? What you're communicating, students, is that you care how they think about whatever the subject is. You're letting them know that you respect their thinking and you want to know how they're thinking. You're giving them the gift of your wanting their opinion on the subject that you're talking about. So, in summary, after you ask them what they're doing, ask them why they're doing it, and I promise you the conversation will move in a very healthy direction. Thanks for the opportunity to share my thinking tonight. Thank you so
We
much.
really
Anytime,
enjoyed it.
Dr. Patterson.
Thank you so much.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Tuesday Talks with Bob. We'll hope to see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Tester. Hello. Good evening. See y'all in the next clip.
And our audience.
Yep. Introduce yourself.
I'm Emma.
It's so great. Okay. Give me a second. We're your hosts, Emily and Sarah. Cut. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
We're your hosts.
Bloopers.
Things changed they changed in the 60s. Thank goodness.
The girls became part of the discussion. That reminds me, when did you come here, Dr. Patterson?
That glacier was either in northern Pennsylvania. I don't think it had gotten into southern New York yet.
But you came here and you fixed it, right?
We tried.
Okay.
No, we didn't fix it. The last digit on my left middle one, I can stick a pin through it and you won't see it. I won't feel it because Daisy moved her foot and I didn't move mine, and it's dead. And, so for some reason, the blackberries downhill from the hog pen were always tastiest blackberries.
I should imagine why.
Oh my
They were
God.
well-fed blackberries.
Very well fed.
Um,